Hi there and welcome. I'm Tammy Lee Meyer and I'm here today. It's April the 20th, 2016, and I'm speaking to you from the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam, and in what's known as Vancouver. And today I'm joined by Caroline Smalley, a very inspiring woman who has been working in the new economy movement and producing tools for people to use and for communities to be able to empower themselves. Caroline, I'd love to just take a moment to say thank you for the work that you do in the world, and I'd love to take a bit of time today to explore that. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tammy, and hi, and thank you for all the inspirational work that you do as well. There's a lot to be done, and a lot of people are working on it. And what I feel is happening now is a real integration, and you're being a huge service to that integration. So, thank you.
Wonderful. So this is a peer-to-peer podcast. We're both new economists and passionate advocates for the empowerment of humanity in our different ways. And so I'd love to start, Caroline, with what has inspired you to take on this work well, we're trying to change the world, aren't we?
Because people are beautiful. Because I mean, look at it. How often do you meet somebody in the street and you talk to them about what we're doing, and you don't see a glimmer of hope? You don't see, people want change. People are longing for it. They want to be a part of it. They want to love each other. That's natural. But the way that business has been operating, the way society has created borders, is stopping humanity from radiating in the way that it's meant to. So it's not that people have got a problem here. It's that the systems that are governing people's behavior are just completely out of whack.
Yes.
And it's, when you experience pain yourself and you see pain in other people that come about because of the system, which is essentially works in a way that means if you have more, somebody else has less. The more you have, the easier it is to make even more. And that becomes your success story. That becomes how people identify with you as a successful individual. And therefore, because you want to be loved, rather than, your love is surrounded around this financial model that the current economy is locked into.
Yes.
It doesn't consider social. It doesn't consider humanity, who we are. Yes. It doesn't consider the planet, the environment.
Absolutely.
So we're closing off from ourselves, and people want to be loved, so they keep working within that paradigm. And it just doesn't be that way.
Yes, it absolutely should not. I'm interested in some of your earliest inspirations because I've had the honor and pleasure to know you for about 2.5 years now. And so I've been able to know some of that story, but I'd love for you to share from your perspective, what started you on this journey?
It's really only 2.5 years. I feel like somehow we've known each other a lot longer than that.
Yes.
Well, the first memory I have is when I was, I guess I must have been about 8 years old when the famines were in Ethiopia.
Right.
Bob Geldof did the Live Aid concert. I was living in England until I was 27. So, and I remember seeing news about the famine on the television, and I got involved with the Race for Life that happened in Hyde Park, and I went to the Live Aid concert, and that whole time had a big impact on me.
Right.
And really just questioning, how is there so much inequality in the world?
Yes.
And how can you possibly, it seems like people say the third world because it seems like such a different world from ours. it's really hard to actually, I can't comprehend it, that 80% of us are on less than $5,000
Yes.
a year.
Mm.
And if I had to, there's no way. I mean, okay, the country I live in doesn't allow for that, but anyway. So
Mm.
that was the original inspiration, was really sort of questioning,
Yes.
why is this going on in the world? So really, I guess I was observing more than anything else at that time.
Yes. And
Um,
I think many of us all over the world have been obviously looking at the world we live in and not feeling like this is the best we can do. And there are people like us. I would say there's hundreds of millions of change makers all over the planet that are pushing for change.
yeah.
And so part of what I'm interested in is us having these peer-to-peer conversations so that we can understand that broader context, as well as what we are doing and how we can contribute. So there was a turning point for you. There was a point where you had moved to Canada and you had been really wrestling with these things. Then you took the leap, and maybe you can share with us some stories about when you took the leap to really invest in this change work.
It's always been inside of me, Tam. It's I was bullied at school. It really started from standing up, and I remember being asked. I remember an English lesson where people were being asked about capital punishment, their views on capital punishment, and I was the only person to say I was against capital punishment, because nobody else was sort of saying I'm against it. Everyone followed everybody else,
Right.
but I couldn't do that, and that's just who I am. Um, and when you see somebody being treated in a way that isn't right, then there was never that switch off button in my head. I'd just dive straight in there,
Mm.
and then you become a victim yourself.
Right.
Um, so I had quite a lot of time in deep thought and observing people throughout my teenage years. Um, and then, on top of other regular teenage struggles that we all go through. And what pushed me to Canada was what I would see as a tipping point.
Yes.
Which was really me saying no more. I had a well-paid job. I had a relationship. I'd pretty much finished renovating a house that I owned in Bristol with my partner. It was there, I could see the 2.4 children and the
Yes.
but it was the experience that I had that I had been through,
Mm.
um, and accepting the way the world is. I couldn't take that. I couldn't take that I didn't go through those experiences for a reason. I believe that it's not the experiences that we go through in life, it's what we do with them
Yes.
that matters. Um, and I believe it was. I'm glad I did what I did, the way I behaved, not all the time, but as far as standing up for what I believed in, I'm proud of that.
Yes.
So really, it was sort of, okay, well, if that's not accepted here, and at a point where I really felt that people didn't understand me, they didn't understand my intention, they didn't understand what was going on inside here, and I couldn't handle it anymore. So it took a bit of time to get peace and healing within myself before I could do anything.
Yes.
And I became a landed resident. So that helped as well. It gives you a bit more security. And then during that whole journey, over the first few years here, we had a manual snow removal business, where I worked somebody who came in as my roommate. I co-owned the business with him. It's a fairly small little business. We take care of the areas in Whistler that people can't get by machine, and we employ guys from the First Nation community of Lilwat, which is very hard hit with alcohol issues, and the paradigm that was left over from the atrocity.
Impacts.
across
Yes, the impacts of what's
people.
yes,
And yet it's this culture that actually lived the new economy that we're calling the new economy,
yes,
that
it's a
lived
very old economy.
that that is far more harmonious with wholeheartedly who we are. Um, people, planet, as well as the things that we decide we want materially.
Yes,
Um, because they very much get the gifting economy, and they very much get the joy, how powerful the joy of gifting is.
yes,
It's the reverse of us. It's that the more you gift, the more you gift to others, the more you give to others, that is a sign of your status, for want of a better word. Um, and through that journey of working with snowmasters and seeing that light, a spirit that goes back so many generations, you can see that.
Mhm.
Um, and then seeing the pain that was caused from alcohol, and then hearing some of the stories are
Yeah, and
just
I think it's yeah,
unbelievable. And
I
it's
just
decent.
I think it's important to recognize that that the alcohol is a symptom of the multi-generational impacts of residential schools and of the colonialism here in Canada. Just because it is deeper than just how alcohol has affected communities, and I'm so grateful that you are doing that work and offering Indigenous people in your neck of the woods ways to be able to work and do good work in the world. So thank you so much for that. That's powerful.
Well, it's not so much what Snowmasters does for them; it's what they've done
Of
for us.
course,
I mean, really, that business has afforded me to do what I do.
right?
It's what when you're out there shoveling snow, and you talk about um, what's actually at the heart of the issue. Yeah, it is the fact that this is a nation who've been raped from who they are and their identity, and stopped from being the way that they are.
And
Um,
and also, I'd love to just in listening to your story and thinking about your personal story of experiencing bullying, essentially the solutions that you're creating and the area that you're working in is kind of in the area of the macro bullying, the economic bullying that's happening all over the planet. And I like that you're also pointing to the bullying that's happened here for Indigenous people in Canada, because I think that that is part of what we need to look at and talk about, and it is part of the intention of our work is to look at that high level bullying as well as how that impacts us as human beings
mhm,
and find solutions for that, real ones.
mhm,
So let's talk about the citizens media and that inspiration, because it is a powerful collection of tools that has been in development for some time, since 2006. So maybe you can just do a little brief overview as to how the citizens media started. Let's start there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've already mentioned that 80% of the world are on less than $5,000 a year. And we've talked about how the economy makes it so that the more you've had, the easier it is to make more. And so there's this wealth divide, even though it shifts, it's balanced throughout the world globally, the wealth divide is still increasing.
Yes.
So the current economy, the way the system works, is actually only serving the top. Some people, well, it's the amount of wealth that the 1% have is greater than everybody else. We're at that point now, but the economy has been serving very much the minority of us. So how about we create different ways of working, which we already are doing, that better serve the rest of us and ultimately all of us.
Yes.
So how do we need to do that? Well, in order to understand how to do that and to give equal opportunity for everyone to get on board, we need to be able to communicate with each other.
Yes.
We have been putting up for centuries these boundaries, these national boundaries, and putting up the fences. Look at the migration issue that's going on. Whereas we need to become global citizens again.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things we need to unlearn. So to do that, we need to communicate with each other and share each other's stories and share each other's voices to really see that we're the same.
Yes.
And to take the fear away that's created through this me versus you, and to turn it into trust.
Yeah.
So communication. One of the problems with communication is that only 1/3 of the world are actually online. Communication is becoming more mobile, but there's still a huge gap. Innovation is happening, but we're not able to share it at anything like the level that we could do. The conversations that show where the connections are part of the economy. They need to be acknowledged, and they need to be brought into, they need to have value in the same way, be given value in the same way we give value to a cup. I give high value to coffee. We need to do that. And so that's sort of the citizens' media, is about media that's valued.
Yes.
So it's about, so the idea is essentially shifting crowdfunding so that it incorporates communication.
Yes.
And does this in a way, or all the thinking around the citizens' media is, how can we, at the moment we're all dependent on this traditional money, the dollar, the pound, the euro, whatever it is. We're dependent on that. How can we use that, because that's what puts food on my table at the moment, you know, and move it into a new system?
Yes.
So really what we want to do is bring this money into projects where the people coming up with new ways of working, of going back to embracing all that we are, and seeing all the value that we can cultivate within that. How we can push that money into projects where they are working with people who are within these underserved communities around the world. We're working with each other, put the money into those projects in a way that the products and services are the new economy, and
Right.
are then reinvested within that new economy. So they don't go back to the stock market currencies. We don't want to be a stock market currency. We need to be separated from that. Yeah,
So,
and so we need to be able to give back in the same way. Without going into the detail, that's pretty much it.
well, one of the things that I really appreciate about the citizens media model is that what you're doing is you're profiling people who are doing good things in the world. Those are projects. You're looking to foster communication and collaboration between them so that people can share resources, knowledge, information, and that we can create media through doing that promotes and profiles the projects, and gives further attention to that work so that people can pay attention, which is an important currency in our social media world. And so I very much appreciate that focus on looking at how we give value to things. That's incredibly important. In profiling people that are doing things on the ground that are powerful and to be supported, and weaving that crowdfunding in with the communications so that people can kind of watch as these projects are being developed, and can see how they can plug in, how they can add their little piece to the puzzle. And I think that that's incredibly inspiring.
Thank you, and thank you as well for your work with. You've done a lot of recording of our conversations over the years, and actually listening back and hearing the way I communicate has been a very powerful teaching tool. And giving me inspiration to do these sorts of conversations online.
Yes.
And it was having these conversations online that attracted the sponsor that we had, that meant that we could do a summit last year, bringing together world leaders. So it is very much a party where everyone's invited. And it's what was interesting about that sponsorship coming in was it was completely unexpected, as was the other sort of what I call a big surprise of somebody contacting me out of the blue who was, not a movie star, but
Yes.
And it came from something I didn't expect.
Mm.
It came from just doing the work.
Yes.
In the best way I knew that I could at the time. And that's what we're walking into, because
Yes.
we are releasing individual skills, because we are inviting people into having conversations and seeing what opportunity there is in a way everyone will gain from getting involved, or can gain from getting involved.
Yes.
And so by doing that, it's really going into the world of possibilities we haven't yet thought about.
Mm.
We've not been here yet. We're in an age now where we need to bring back Aboriginal values with the communication tools that we've got.
Yes, absolutely. And so, riffing off of that, one of the pieces that I would love to continue to develop with you are these peer-to-peer podcasts. And I think that there is great value in bringing people together to think through and bring light to things that are being developed and some of the collective challenges that we face, so that we can have strong minds in the room that have thought about these things and engage as peers, to be able to look at the territory, make some good suggestions as to next steps and things that we can do together as we identify what our skills, our assets, our abilities, our passions, and our hopes are. And so I'd love to hear from you of perhaps another person that you might want to do a peer-to-peer podcast with to help you. What are the next conversations that would be useful in your development with your work, and just as far as having a place to focus, to shed light on, and to bring people together.
So I think a lot of the general hangouts, general conversations happen through the Great Debate and through the impact economy.
Yes.
We're now at that place where we're creating the documentary and the crowdfunding campaign from the impact economy. And it's really being in developing what that campaign looks like, what gets communicated within that, how we break this down to get things going. That it's those conversations that are important now, and that's where it's more specific about, okay, here's what we need to achieve, and here are some things, what's the best approach. For example, the exchange, getting a mobile means to share in a way that doesn't involve pounds and dollars. There's Enrique at Faircoin.
Right.
So I sent him an email this morning because I know that he's having conversations with STRO, Social Trade Organization, who are the guys behind a mobile exchange tool called Cyclos.
Yes.
And I'm also talking with Coin again, who are the group in Amsterdam, who created some very user-friendly instances of Cyclos-based systems. And wanting to get Warren into that call, and Ian McKenzie has been involved in story editing.
Wonderful.
What we're doing and how he really, it's a blessing.
So we're both going to be attending the World Social Forum in Montreal this year, which is wonderful. As you know, I've agreed to follow the work of Matt Slater, one of the cohort of folks who came together for the Impact Economy Summit. And so we're having conversations about what kind of media creation and collaborative conversations can be had ahead of that summit. And so there's a couple of conversations that I was hoping to have, and one of them is with you, because I think that having his deep insight on Comcoins as a community currency would be really useful in being able to inform what that might look like at that level. Also, of course, there's other members of the cohort like Tiberius Brastovicenu from Sensorica. They're looking at doing a community currency as well. So I was hoping to do a podcast with one of his team, perhaps Jim Anastasio. And so these are our collaborative peer-to-peer conversations that I'd like to have ahead of that event, so that we're building material that can also be used to help profile and promote the projects that we're each working on. So this would be an opportunity to have some media that can be shown and shared on the Citizens Media platform, and begin to engage some of those conversations more broadly. And so I would be absolutely thrilled to be a part of hosting any conversations that you would find useful. But those are some thoughts that I had at the outset, just as far as what's in my sphere of influence and field of interest right now. So I just wanted to see if you might be open to those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, thank you. That would be, and yeah, I think it would be, bring value very much indeed. Especially now it's becoming real. We're moving out of the theory now, we're implementing.
Yes.
And really wanting to keep things simple as we but keep the conversation open.
Yes.
It's like sort of a baby. It's nurturing the baby, and then soon it will run, and soon it'll be,
Yes.
its own little entity. Well, it already is. Anyway, side point. Yes, I think that a call with Jim and Matt, maybe Leander.
Yeah, I was thinking to just do perhaps a starting one, set a context setting one with you, myself, and Matt. Perhaps one other person, but I would have because the Sensorica crew, they want to talk about, they have a very specific focus that they're looking on, and it's not necessarily immediately integratable with the Citizens Media platform. Because of course they're working, and of course it's of interest because you have you have wanted to use the NRP VAS, or the network resource planning value accounting system, that they are using, which is a very powerful innovation, and I know you're interested in using that as well. But I know that their interest is very specifically Sensorica focused. And I would love to be very specific and focused in the conversation with Matt around the community currency aspect of the work that you're doing in with the Citizens Media and the I3 co-op. And so I think that it makes sense to kind of constrain it so that it's really honoring the work that you're doing and getting the best out of the conversation with Matt, so it's not a bifurcated focus. That makes sense.
That sounds great.
Fantastic.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, well, that sounds like a wonderful next step. And Just in closing, Caroline, I just want to thank you so much for all of the hard work that you've done in bringing together collaborators for the Impact Economy Summit last year. And in the near decade, it's a decade now that you've invested yourself, your passion, and your resources in developing the citizens' media. So I very, very much appreciate that, and also just your fine mind in how you have conceived and executed these ideas in the world. So thank you so much for your contribution. It is seen.
Thank you, Tammy. Let's get our work on the road.
All right, let's get this show on the road. All right, until next time, Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you.